Hey guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige, and today we're discussing some romance books. So I have recently been exploring the romance genre in a much broader way than I have done previously. I've always kind of liked reading romance in the summer, but it's never been something that I felt the need to explore that intensely. And recently I've just decided that I'm pretty much a romance reader now. It's all I want to read. The phase has lasted for many a month and I'm just not finding fantasy books that I enjoy. So I think I'm a romance reader now. But I essentially wanted to do this video, which is a list of recommendations for books that I feel like are good for exploring the romance genre as a beginner, but are also books that I have used to help me explore this genre. So in some ways they're recommendations, in other ways they're books that I have bought, may have not read yet, but I'm leaning towards trying them to help me explore this genre that is still fairly new to me. I did a video similar to this, which was like good fantasy books for beginners. This is good romance books for beginners, although I'm not as established in the genre to know for sure that these are good for beginners. These are just basically what I have used, and I hope that it's helpful if you are new to the romance genre in some way. The romance genre is incredibly overwhelming. There are so many different tropes, there are so many different authors. You can go smutty, you can go summary, you can go comforting, you can go contemporary. Like, there's just so many different things to explore in this genre that I feel like it's really overwhelming to try and read romance books, and I hope that this video is helpful in some way. So if you like this video and you would like to see more, then I do have an entire playlist entitled Reading Recs, so do feel free to go and check those out. Or you can also hit that big red subscribe button down below to stay tuned for future content. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here for you to enjoy. Without further ado, let's get into good romance books to get you started. This would just not be a romance video on my channel if I did not talk about this book. I was really hesitant to pick it up, but it's become one of my favourite books of the year and one of my favourite romance books of all time, and that is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Does this book have some issues in terms of STEM representation? Yes, it does. Okay, like in terms of women in STEM, it's not the best book in the world, but as a romance, it checks all of the boxes. You have fake dating, you have college setting, you have two characters who have a genuinely good reason for fake dating that is believable. You have two characters that are just nice people to read about, you know, and you have fantastic smut that lasts for like an entire chapter. There was nothing about the romance of this book or the plot points of this book that I did not like. I was so genuinely swept up in it. I feel like I could very happily reread this book every single month and it would not get boring. It's become a big comfort read for me. I just love it so much. So if you don't know, which I'd be surprised about because this book has blown up on TikTok, but this book follows our main character Olive, and she is a third year PhD candidate and she needs to start fake dating so that her best friend will stop thinking she's heartbroken, and this leads her to fake dating one of the professors in the same biology department that she works in. And this professor also needs a fake date because the university is freezing his grant money because they think that he is planning on leaving the university. So he needs to prove that he has a reason to stick around, hence a fake date. The whole like college setting is so nicely like woven into this book, and the academics in this were just good to me. I love reading academic settings and it worked so well in this whole like romance thing. I feel like Olive and Adam were really well suited to each other and I just believed every ounce of their relationship the whole way. I was really like rooting for them and like on the edge of my seat and just fangirling over them. I really loved this book, and what I think makes it good for beginners is that it's not really heavy in any way. Like, the subject matter is fairly light, The romance is fairly light. The smut, whilst being very detailed, is not super like, you know, like torture kind of sex or anything like that. Like, it's just regular steamy sexy scenes. So I think it works well for beginning to explore this genre, and if you don't like this book then you'll know straight off the bat that you don't like a fake dating trope. I think fake dating is honestly one of the best tropes out there, and this book is one of the best examples of fake dating. You're probably going to enjoy it, and thus you'll just be off on the right foot in terms of starting your romance readership. So I do highly recommend this book. And then the next book I would like to talk about is The Deal by Elle Kennedy, or Throttled by Lauren Asher, and I suggest these two books specifically because they are sports romances. Now, sports romances, and particularly like college sports romances, are really quite popular and probably good to start off with a sports romance, because then you'll just know if you like them, or if there's any particular sport that you're interested in, then it might like make the experience more enjoyable for you. So I started with The Deal by Elle Kennedy. That was one of the first romance books that I read, and this is a college ice hockey romance. In particular, The Deal itself as that first book is not my favourite in the series, but because these collegey sports romancy type of books do tend to be series that follow different characters that you might meet previously, it means that you don't have to love every single book, and you can just go based on what tropes you see. So I do think that they are a good place to start. And I wanted to mention Throttled by Lauren Asher because I have just recently hauled this book because I'm a big Formula One fan. So I just wanted to mention it as well, because in the same kind of way, it's another sports romance, but it is a book that I am using to help me explore the genre. So I wanted to mention both of them. The Deal I have read, Throttled I have not yet read. Also, what tends to be good about sports romances, and Elle Kennedy's off-campus series in particular, is that whilst they are very light-hearted romances, they do tend to delve into some darker topics. I know that The Deal in particular does have some trigger warnings. I would look those up. And so you do get a sense for how dark are you willing to go. Are you interested in there being darker elements to your romances and your romance characters? Or do you just want something like The Love Hypothesis where it's just fluff, fluff, fluff the whole way? It's a good way to kind of gauge that. The next book recommendation that I have for you is Get a Life, Chloe Brown, or really any of the Brown Sisters trilogy. Particularly Get a Life, Chloe Brown, because this is a bucket list trope where Chloe Brown puts together a bucket list of things that she wants to do and ropes her neighbour Red into helping her with these things. Now, you don't tend to see bucket list tropes around in published lit that much, in my opinion. I haven't really seen too many of them around. So this is a good example of trying a new trope such as this. It's not personally my favourite trope, as I learned from Get a Life, Chloe Brown, but also what is particularly good about this series is that, again, it's a series where you can meet the characters in the first book and form a bit of a connection with them and get to know future characters in this first book. So when you do go into the later books, you may already have an idea of who a favourite is, or you already feel a little bit connected to them, so you might be more likely to enjoy that trope. I suggest the Brown Sisters series in a different way to like suggesting sports romances, because when sports romances do it, there tend to be a lot in the series and it can be quite overwhelming, and you kind of get lost in the characters in the beginning. I know with the off-campus series, I don't remember who anyone is until I get to their book. So I think the Brown Sisters trilogy is a very good middle ground for this. You still get the series, you still get to meet the characters in advance and go into books already with attachments to characters, but you don't have that overwhelming rush of characters because it's literally just the three Brown sisters. I think that is a solid recommendation, if I do say so myself. And then, honestly, a massive way to explore the romance genre and things that you like is with fanfiction. This is how I got into romance, like as a kid. I read a lot of fanfiction. Honestly, I think it's a really good way to start exploring some tropes that you may be interested in, because there's something for everyone in fanfiction and you already know the characters. Like, the characters are celebrities or someone else's characters or something like that, like you will go into them already with attachments to characters. And as well, if it's the type of fanfiction where the main character is ambiguous or something like that, or it's written in a certain way, then you'll know both main characters because one will be you and one will be the person that you're reading about. And so I think honestly a good place to start is just go on Tumblr, type in a character or a person and fanfiction at the end, and just see what takes your fancy, because honestly I learned a lot from fanfiction. The next recommendation that I have is Twisted Love by Anna Huang. And I have not read this book yet. This is one that I am just recommending because it's something that I am trying. And that is because this is a romance book, but it also is a little bit darker. It has a little bit of a thrilling element to it. I haven't read any books like this before. I've kind of seen this book and this series particularly around a lot. I think Anna is quite a popular romance author. And so this is the one that I thought I would try for trying out some darker books. I know another one is Penelope Douglas for some darker books if you're interested, so I just wanted to mention this one because it's something that I am using to explore this side of the genre, this more thrilling-y, romancy type of aspect. I'm a little nervous about it, but I do want to give it a go, so I just thought I would mention it. And then the final book recommendation that I have for you is The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare, because not only is this a perfect book for starting to explore some Regency romance or like bodice rippers or more like old-fashioned set romances or romances set in different periods. This is a romance like that, but it also has some very modern tropes in it. It has some very modern elements. The way that Tessa Dare writes is very refreshing and doesn't feel too much like you're reading a Regency romance, so you get the best of both worlds really, and I highly recommend this book. It's honestly one of my favourites of Tessa Dare's, and I just think that it's a really great opportunity to not only explore some modern romance tropes but to explore some different settings, because maybe you're coming into the romance era from like watching Bridgerton, I don't know, maybe you just want a little bit of variety, and I do really think that Tessa Dare's books are really good. I kind of started reading Tessa Dare and Regency romances before I started reading more contemporary romances. Even if you are big into romances and you just want something different, I recommend Tessa Dare's Regency romances, or to be honest as well, Eloisa James is Regency romances. They're both authors that I think do Regency romances in quite a modern way that is not too overbearing or cringy, so I really recommend that. And so there we have it. Those are my romance recommendations. But if you are new to the genre, I feel like I'll do a follow-up to this video when I've spent a lot more time in the genre and I know exactly what I'm looking for, so I can recommend things for you guys to look for. But these are just the kind of books that I have gravitated to as a new reader, that I have found good as a new reader of the genre, because I've also read some books that weren't really for me, or I didn't feel like were particularly beginner friendly. So I just wanted to make this list, put it together so that we can kind of go through this together and what my experiences can be helpful to you in some way. So if you did enjoy this video, then do feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for future content. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content for you to enjoy. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week, you are enjoying everything that you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future, and I will see you for my next video. Bye guys.